family.
Sure. The best thing I could tell you about myself is about my family. It's about my wife, Ellen. We just celebrated our 11th anniversary yesterday.
Congratulations. Awesome.
Yeah, we have three amazing kids, Judith, Janie, and Jameson, 10, 6, and 2. Well, he'll be 2 in real shortly here on the 22nd of October. And we're both from the Midwest. And yeah, that's it. I mean, I am my family.
And Ellen, tell us about yourself. Where'd you grow up and so forth? And
I'm from northern Minnesota, small town called Duluth.
is that Minnesota nice?
It is Minnesota nice.
Give us some Minnesota talk here.
Oh, I don't know if I could.
Awesome. Well, that's wonderful. And where'd you guys meet?
We met up in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sports bar.
Oh,
Mhm.
fantastic.
I was playing Papa Shot, and she walked by, and I said to my buddy, I said, that one.
Yeah. And she beat you later at it, right? I'm not sure.
She actually bought me a Papa Shot for the garage
Yeah.
later, too.
Well, we're here at beautiful Christ Cathedral on Empowered by the Spirit. This is Deacon Steve Greco with Joe and Ellen Burke. And what we're talking about, the theme of this particular show, is abundant living. And we see, and take a look at your Bibles, we see John 10:10, and it says that I have come to give you life and life abundantly. And I think it's so important to understand that living a Christian life means that we have this abundant life as it relates to our own personal faith life, as it relates to marriage, as it relates to family, as it relates to work, as it relates to ministry. And that's really what we're going to talk about. More of a holistic approach. So, Joe, I know in terms of your own personal background and testimony, tell us about how you got closer to the Lord. Was it something from, kind of gradual? Was it more of an all of a sudden thing? Tell us about your story.
Sure. My parents had a big role in it. I grew up born in Chicago, 2 Catholic parents, Irish and Italian, got the double whammy there. And
they say that's oil and gasoline. I'm not sure, but
that'd be correct. But really, had a wonderful family. Very fortunate to go to Catholic schools growing up, and faith was a big part of our life. I was the third boy, by far the most wild and adventurous. And I'd even say, in my many years, I worked in Los Angeles, lived in Santa Monica, and as wild as my life was at the time, and I traveled all over the world at the time, I always found myself at St. Monica's, Monsignor Torgerson, I'm sure you guys know, and my faith has always been with me, but I can't say by any stretch of the imagination that there's any perfection then or now, but I will say it has guided my decisions in terms of what was best for us and our family, and I know it was pivotal in raising our children as well. So
we're with Joe and Ellen Burke here on Empowered, sharing about his faith and why is following as a Catholic, following Jesus so important to you?
I think you're a ship without a rudder. If there's got to be a center point in your life. And again, I'm no picture of perfection, but I do know there was an example 2,000 years ago that was given to us, and if you follow that example, not only will you quantitatively live a better and longer life, you're just going to be happier. And I've met and worked with people from every different walk of life, experience of life. I've worked in advertising, entertainment. I've owned my own company. I've worked for Fortune 100 companies, and you meet a lot of people. And the people that I've worked best with and shared most with in terms of my life and enjoyment, especially with my wife, are people that have that center. And I found most often those are the ones that have a center, surprisingly, are the ones that don't talk about it often. But when you get down and you peel back the floorboards in people's lives, and people that are truly heading in a direction, you'll see that they have this center of faith in their life.
Now, you've been extremely successful in business, and certainly I want to hear more about that. But I don't know about you. I mean, I've been a corporate executive for many, many years and interfaced with very top people nationally and internationally. But the ones I respect are the ones that are grounded in God and certainly the Lord. and grounded in their faith. And it's interesting. It's not about their position or their background, but it is about how much they love. How much they love God, how much they love their family, how much they love people. And that makes a huge difference. And that's certainly what you do in terms of your work. And so tell us right now, you're in advertising, running your own business, and tell us about that.
I just love it. Pardon me. I have a company called The Anatomy of Yes, and it was really formed. It was a book that I've been writing, and long story short, I had left a company, and I was going to take some time and we get up to Minnesota quite a bit. We have a family house up there that we go to, and I got a phone call, I think a day after I left, and they said, we heard you're on the market and want to start doing some work with you. And so I owned theanatomyofyes.com because it was a book I was going to write, and all of a sudden that became the company. I have a handful of clients. I love serving them. I love doing the work for them, and most notably, Ellen and I we have a client that is one of the original surfing wetsuit brands.
Wow.
And so we did a project on Maui where we went there to film and really study Hawaiian legends and the legends of Maui. And I told the CEO, I said, well, listen, you're going to bring an unbelievable production manager on this trip, and her name's Ellen Burke. And so we went to Maui together. We traveled with the CEO and his daughter, and just to me that was the ultimate work-life balance. Ellen found a way to, I think it was an orchestrated 5 sitters and family to watch the kids while we were on there. But it was, to me, the deepest immersion, because for many years, especially when I was driving an hour and a half to work, an hour and a half home, when I was at Disney, I missed it. I got up and the kids were sleeping, and I'd come home and the kids were sleeping. And for me, this was the ultimate way of getting Ellen and I together, not only in a work environment, but also in a life environment. And it was more fulfilling than if we were just to have gone on vacation. And
That's fantastic. We're with Joe and Ellen Burke, and we're talking about how we put Christ at the center of everything we do, how we put Christ at the center of work, our relationships, our marriage, our family. Ellen, tell us about your faith walk, if you could.
Okay, so I grew up in northern Minnesota, and I was raised in the church. My parents were divorced when I was younger, so my mom would drop me off at Sunday school along with my brother, and we went through the whole, Sunday school, confirmation, and all that, the stuff, and then as soon as I got old enough to make the choice, I chose not to go to church all the time, because it wasn't the culture of the family that I was in, or with my mom, at that point. But I remember I would always go to my grandmother's house, Helen, and she'd watch church on TV because she couldn't travel and go to Mass. And probably 30 times throughout my childhood, when she would watch me, she ended up giving me a rosary. So I have a drawer full of these rosaries that she would constantly. So, she was a very faithful woman. So it was always there. But it wasn't until I met Joe and we decided that we were going to have a family that we really thought about it and thought, or I really thought about it and thought, I really need to get back into the church. This is where I want to raise my kids. This is how I want to raise my kids. This is the journey I want to take with him. And so I was one of those that went away for a while and got brought back.
And I'm sure many listeners out there can relate to that. And many perhaps are listening and not knowing why they're listening, and maybe that they've dropped out. But you're saying there's hope. And basically, just how did you come back? Is it something that just nudged at you, where you really felt like, God's talking to me here. I want to build my house on a solid foundation and not on sand?
Yeah, exactly that. I think, facing down the barrel of starting a family and raising those kids, I knew that the solid foundation was going to come from Joe and I. And if, he was the one that was bringing them to church and raising them in the church, which is what I wanted, but I wasn't there, it's like, like he said, you kind of have half a ship, if you don't, it's not going to float unless you have the whole thing put together. And so I came back and,
And the rest is history, right? But it's an evolution, right? We have to constantly keep coming back.
Yeah. I mean, we go every Sunday, sometimes Saturday night, sometimes night mass, sometimes we're standing in the vestibule because the kids are you know, but we're there and we're faithful, and it brings us together as a family.
And I heard a
Yes.
rumor that after the show you're going to be going to daily mass. All right. That was in the contract, by the
It
way.
was, yes,
Yeah.
I saw that.
Tell us about your family. How many children?
It's just me and my brother. Oh, you mean my family now or growing
The
up?
two of you.
The two of us, we have 3 kids.
Mm-hmm. And how old?
Judith is 10.
Mhm.
Jameson is going to be 2 at the end of October, and Jamie is 6.
Wow. And you're juggling an awful lot because you're also employed, correct?
Yes.
And tell us about what you're employed in and how you juggle that together.
I teach in the Department of Special Education at Cal State Fullerton.
Awesome.
So I'm blessed to be able to work from home, and also cursed because I have to work from home.
Well, we're going to find out more about that after the break here, about how we can manage working from home and doing all that stuff, and then how a marriage needs to be centered in the Lord. We're going to be right back.